Okay, so let's start then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today's lesson is going to be about Mubtada and Khabr. And previously we talked about Fa'il, we talked about Maf'ul bihi. And we mentioned that the Marfu'at that he mentioned, the 7 of them. Now we're going to be looking at the Mubtada. So let's start with the Mubtada then. So here there's a concept called the Mubtada and the Khabr. Okay, so let me Mubtada and Khabr. Okay, so these are two important concepts in Arabic grammar. Okay, two important concepts in Arabic grammar. You got Mubtada and you got Khabr. And let me explain it a bit easier, and then we look into the details of it. Mubtada and Khabr is simply, in simple terms, it's what we call an is sentence. Yeah, so for instance, if you have a sentence, for example, like, let's say, Zaid is pious. Yeah, Zaid is pious. So, in simple terms, Zaid is known as the Mubtada, put a meme for Mubtada, and pious is known as the Khabr. Yeah, that's all Mubtada and Khabr is all about. Yeah, that you identify Zaid and you identify pious. That's all. That's all this lesson is all about, is to identify these kind of sentences and what words can take place of a Mubtada, what words can take place of a Khabr, and the different formations that you can have. So this is simply what it's all about. Mubtada and Khabr. Okay, so Zaid, like I said, is the Mubtada and pious is the Khabr. But obviously this is Arabic grammar now. So, Arabic grammar, we're not messing around, we are. Yeah, we're going to be mentioning about these words, and more specifically, we're going to be mentioning about the definitions, and that's what you want to learn in Arabic grammar. Definitions, the small little nitty-gritty details, that's what's really going to help you. So one, understanding the concept, and one's understanding the details. So because this book's in a beginner's book, right, we're not going to go into all the details, and nor does the author himself. The author kind of skips out all these things. So we're not really going to go into all of that. We're just going to mention whatever he mentions, we mention it. And if you want to learn more, then you can do like an advanced book after this. So let's look at the definitions then. So Mubtada. Let me define what he says. So he says, basically, I'm going to put it in my own words. Okay. So he says, number one, this is the definition, yeah? So let me write this down. Definition. Okay, so in the definition, number one, the first point that you need to remember, it's a noun. Yeah, the Mubtada must be a noun. That's the first thing. And Mubtada cannot be a verb. It cannot be a harf. Yeah, it has to be a noun. Okay, number two is that the Mubtada is in the state of marfu, rafa. In the rafa state. Yeah, the rafa state. Number three, the Mubtada has an Aamil, and the Aamil is a concept. Now, before I explain Aamil, let me just show you in simple terms what Aamil means. In an Arabic sentence, let's say, for example, like we did before. You remember we said, Qara'a Zaid. Now, Qara'a Zaid. If you remember, we said Zaid is in the marfu state. Why is it in the marfu state? Because it's the fa'il. Fa'il. Okay? Now, the question is, what has made this into a marfu state? In other words, or in simple terms, what is the Aamil? The Aamil is another word for what has caused its vowel to change. Yeah, the governor. Yeah, the governor. Yeah, so the governor, what has governed its vowel? What's given Zaid a dhamma? What's made it marfu state? This is known as the Aamil. So whenever a vowel changes, we want to look for the Aamil. So if I said to you, what's the Aamil of Zaid? You say to me, it's qara'a. Okay, like that. That's how it basically works. So in a Mubtada, what's the Aamil in a Mubtada? What's made it in the marfu state? So what they say basically in simple terms is, they say the Aamil is a concept. So the Aamil, is a ma'na. Ma'na means it's a concept. It's something that's not physically there. Yeah, physically you can't see it. It's a ma'na. Okay, it's a concept. So qara'a is a word. So the Aamil for Zaid in qara'a Zaid is qara'a, which is a physical word. But in a Mubtada, the thing that's making the Mubtada marfu is not a word. There's no word. It's actually a concept. Yeah, that's all you have to remember. So these are the three things that define a Mubtada. So if I said to you, right guys, what's a Mubtada? You say, you just drill these three things. Yeah, it's a noun. It has to be a noun. Number one. Yeah, number two, it has to be marfu. If it's not marfu, can't be Mubtada. Sorry. And number three, if I ask you, what's the Aamil for this? You say to me, the Aamil is ma'na. Yeah, al-Aamil ma'nawi. Now, another term for ma'nawi that he uses, he says this. Yeah, he says, al-'ari an al-'awamil al-lafdhiyya. Now, you see, the thing about this is like posh Arabic, guys. Come on, we're not posh. So you're using posh Arabic with us. Come on, guys, what's this? Yeah, it's not going to work. It confuses us more. So we need to request from the author, who unfortunately has passed away. So on the Day of Judgment, we're going to ask him. So these words are too hard for us. Simplify it. So it simply means, ari means void. Yeah, void of any lafzi amils, physical word amils. Yeah, so qara'a Zaid, the Aamil is qara'a, it's a physical word. It's a word that exists in the sentence. So all he's saying is, the Aamil for the Mubtada is not there. It's not lafzi. And so if it's not lafzi, then it's got to be ma'na. Concept. Ma'na also means meaning. Okay, that's the definition of Mubtada. Everyone happy with that? Everyone understand that? Or not? Or, if you don't understand, put it in the comments, guys. Yeah, I like reading your comments. What are you guys writing there? Okay, let's move on to the Khabr then now. What's the definition of Khabr? So the definition of Khabr that he gives, is this. He says that, number one, it's an ism. Now, I don't agree with this, saying it's an ism, because like we're going to see, Khabrs don't necessarily need to be isms. So, but anyway, let's just go with the flow. So number one, he says it's a noun. Okay. It's number two in the marfu state. Okay, so no difference in that case between Mubtada and Khabr in those two things. It's the final thing where it differs. Yeah. So far so good. Excellent. Jazakallah khair. So the final thing is where it differs. The Aamil in the Khabr, right? The Aamil in the Khabr. What's the Aamil in the Khabr? So he doesn't really mention what the Aamil in the Khabr is, but you can tell in what he says. He says it's Musnad. It's Musnad. Now, let me explain something to you. Let's say, for example, you have a roof. Yeah, this roof. This is a roof. This roof is resting on the walls of the house. Yeah, these are the walls. Which is stronger? Think about it. Which is stronger? The walls of the house or the roof? Meaning, which one, if you were to remove it, would still exist? Would still be intact? It's the wall, isn't it? Yeah, so the wall, therefore, is much stronger. So we call the wall Musnad ilayhi. Musnad ilayhi. This is known as the Musnad ilayhi. The stronger thing is known as the Musnad ilayhi. Okay, and the roof is known as the Musnad. The roof is known as the Musnad, meaning the wall is the thing that is relied upon, and the roof is the thing that is resting. So Musnad can simply mean resting. So basically what this means then is this, that the Khabr is resting on the Mubtada. Yeah, the Khabr is resting on the Mubtada. So that's why we call the Khabr the Musnad. This is the Musnad, and the what do you call it? The Mubtada is the Musnad ilayhi. So that's another fancy term that he's used, right? And again, you know, it's a bit confusing to us, but inshallah we'll understand it. Musnad and Musnad ilayhi. So he says it's the Musnad, but he says Musnad ilayhi, but what he means is Musnad. Yeah, so in other words, what he's saying is that the Khabar is relying on the Mubtada. Different color. The Khabar relies on the Mubtada. It relies upon it. So that's where it gets its marfu state from. Okay, everyone got that? So these are the two definitions that he gives of Mubtada and Khabar. Now, if you read other books, you read other grammar books, which maybe some of you guys have, you'll notice that the author's definition of Mubtada and Khabar are a bit different. So don't worry about that. Just, you know, my advice to you guys, if you're studying any book, just go with what the book says. Whatever the book says, just go with it. And then when you advance into another book, you'll see the differences yourself and you start learning yourself. Yeah, but if the teacher kind of overloads the book, and like if I was to explain Ajurrumiyyah to you guys through, let's say, Sharh ibn Aqil, yeah, or through, you know, some other advanced book, Sharh al-Mufassal, then what would happen is that you'd lose that gradual progression in learning Nahu. Yeah, so you don't want to lose that gradual progression. That gradual progression is part of your studies. You need to learn that in any subject. This is just a tip. In any subject you study, take it bit by bit. Yeah, do not take too many details in one go. Okay, right. So that's the first part. So let's look at this. Let's look at this then, and let's see if we can understand it. So he says, if you look at this, Bab al-Mubtada wal-Khabar, the chapter of Mubtada and Khabar. Mubtada is al-Ism al-Marfu, the noun which is in the Rafa state, al-Ari, which is void, and al-Awamil, of any Awamil, any governors, lafdhiyya, okay, words which are present. In other words, Awamil lafdhiyya, words in a sentence, it's void of any word in a sentence which affects its vowels. In other words, how did it become marfu? Ma'na, like we said. And I explained it in a very simple way. Wal khabar, and what's the khabar? Three things. Wal ism, it's a noun. Al marfu, in the state of rafa. Al musnad ilayhi, yeah, musnad to it. So musnad to it means musnad, yeah, al marfu al musnad ilayhi, musnad to it, meaning musnad to the khabar. As in, the khabar is the musnad and the mubtada is the musnad ilayhi. Sounds a bit confusing, but that's basically what he's trying to say. Right, so let's look at some examples that he gives. So some examples. Zaydun qaimun. So now look at this. So Zaydun is the mubtada, qaimun is the khabar. Now what vowels are we going to put on this? Because both of them are in the rafa state. Zayd is marfu, qaimun is marfu, and you know, if you remember that list I told you, dawan, dad, waw, alif, noon. Yeah, these are the three alamats, the signs of rafa. So we're going to put, yeah, dhamma on there, Zaydun. And qaimun, we're going to put dhamma on there as well. So Zaydun qaimun. Zayd is a noun, it's in marfu state. What's the Aamil? What's caused it to have a dhamma? And you know, that's the ma'na. And qaim, it's a noun, it's marfu, and it's musnad. Yeah, it's relying upon the Zayd. So Zayd is the one that's kind of helping it get a rafa state. Right. Let's look at another example then. Az-Zayduna or Zaydani Qa'imani. Yeah, so Az-Zaydani, this is now in the Tathniya dual. So Dawan, Dad, Waw, Alif, Noon, Alif. Yeah, so the Dhamma, the Rafa is in the Alif state. or an alif sign. And qa'imani, again, the rafa is with the alif. So az-zaydani qa'iman. Now notice what happens. Yeah, notice that you see the word qa'imun. This was a single word. This is single. And notice this. This is times 2 dual. So in other words, although he hasn't said it, he's like indicating towards it in his examples. So he's a kind of very, subtle indication that the khabr must be appropriate with the mubtada. Yeah. So the khabr and the mubtada, they must be appropriate with each other. So Zayd is single, so therefore the khabr must be single. Zaydani is dual, therefore the khabr must be dual. Yeah. So that conforming with the mubtada is very important. So you can't say something like this. Az-Zaydani, let's get rid of this. Az-Zaydani qa'imun. You can't say that because it doesn't conform. It's not appropriate with the Zaydan. Zaydan's dual, so qa'imani must be dual as well. Yeah. So remember that. It's a very important point. Okay. What was that? With Hidayat al-Nahu, we'll make dua that I finish this first before Hidayat al-Nahu. Okay, and number 3, az-zayduna. Az-zayduna. So remember, this is plural state. Qa'imuna. Notice again, rafa here is with the waw. Yeah, so zayduna. Oops, wrong color. The right color. So az-zayduna qa'imuna. Okay, zayduna qa'imuna. And qa'imuna again. So qa'imuna is in the jama mudhakkar salim. So it has to conform with the zayduna. Now, he hasn't mentioned this, but you can try and figure it out for yourself. Imagine it was, let's say, the word al-muslimatu, the Muslim women, al-muslimatu. Yeah? Al-muslimatu, how would we say they are standing? Does that make sense? Yeah. So remember, it has to conform. It has to conform. So we would simply say qa'imatun. Qa'imatun. Yeah, so do the khabar has to follow the mubtada, ma'rifah and nakira? No, not necessarily, no. It doesn't have to follow in ma'rifah and nakira. Just in gender and number really, generally. So muslimatu qa'imatun. Yeah, qa'imatun there. That would be for that. But he hasn't mentioned it here, these kind of things. So I don't really want to go into these kind of things because it's just going to make it a bit too long then. So we won't be able to finish the text. So anyway, let's read this then. So he says, nahwa qawlika. Right, nahwa qawlika. Now, I'd love to go through the vowels here, why he's said huwa al-ismu. Maybe inshallah, as we go through, I'll come back to the text and we can look at the vowels as well. But anyway, nahwa qawlika. Zaydun qaimun. So Zaydun is the mubtada, qaimun is the khabar. And az-zaydani qaimani. So the two Zayds are standing. Was-zayduna qaimuna. The Zayds, the multiple Zayds, maybe there's 3, 4, 10, 20 Zayds, they're all standing qaimuna. So he's given examples of those, but he hasn't given examples of feminine. Yeah, come on, what's this, man? Yeah, so guys, on the day of judgment, inshallah, we're going to ask the author, inshallah. Make dua for him as well. We're going to ask him. Right. Well, mubtada qisman. Now, mubtada is of 2 types now. Shall I go down or shall I go sideways? I'll go sideways. Alright, so mubtada is of 2 types now. Types of mubtada. Now, actually, I'll go down on it because then it all kind of fits in. Yeah, it all fits in nicely, so everything's symmetrical. Yeah, and those OCD guys of you guys out there, you like symmetrical things, so I'm going to do for you guys as well, inshallah. Yeah, so, okay. So, mubtada. Types of mubtada. Alright, so let's draw a kind of imaginary line there. Let's break down the khabar and mubtada. And let's do types. Okay, so types. What are the types of mubtada? Is the writing clear? Is it too light, or to me I think it seems a bit too light. Can I make it any dark? Don't know how to make it dark. Okay, so right, so types of mubtada. Mubtada is of two types now. Oops, it's going to be too light there. Happened there. Okay. Right. So two types of mubtada. So one is a mubtada which is known as the zahir mubtada. And one is a mubtada which is known as a mudmar mubtada. Very, very easy terms these, okay? Very, very easy. Let me explain to you how. Okay, so basically what this means is this. You know, if I make it bigger, I see the screen gets... You want me to see the text as well? Okay, so Zahir and Mudmar. Mudmar, this is a concept, alright? Mudmar, let me just write it over here. This is what we call a ضمير. Yeah, ضميrs. ضميrs are what we call pronouns. Okay, and in Arabic, there's pronouns that you use, just like in English. We use, for example, we say he, yeah, we say she, etc. So in Arabic, you use that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to list for you the pronouns. They're in the book anyway, but I list them for you in my own way. So huwa, huma, hum, and this is easy for those of you who've done sarf. Yeah, you can you can follow along, inshallah. So huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, nahnu. Yeah, these are 12, these are 14 rather. Okay, so these are 14. So huwa is he times 1. Yeah. And huma is he times 2. And hum is he times 3. Hiya is she times 1. Huma is she times 2. So notice they're both the same. This huma and that huma. And then hunna is she times 3. Anta is you masculine times 1. So I'll just put M for masculine. Antuma is you masculine times 2. Antum is you masculine times 3. Anti is you feminine times 1. Antuma is you feminine times 2. And you feminine times 3. And ana is I. And nahnu is we. Okay, so that's the basic 14 that you do in sarf. Yeah, or if you look in Arabic grammar books, they'll have it like this. So what he has basically done is he's cut out, there's 14, so there's 2 that are repeats. I'll show you the repeats. So huma is a repeat. Yeah. And also, let me do a different color. Antuma is a repeat. So if you take out the repeats, take out 2 repeats from 14, you've got 12. Excellent. Yeah, so he says there's 12. So in other words, a mubtada can be one of these. These are all in the marfu state, okay? Remember that. All of these are in the marfu state. So I've done all 14 just to make it a bit easier. So in other words, if you have a sentence, let's say you want to say, I am a Muslim. Okay, if you want to say I am Muslim, you simply say, Ana Muslim. Yeah, Ana Muslim. So the thing that you want to remember here is the ana. That's the main part. That's the mubtada. Ana. Okay, if you want to say we are Muslims, you say Nahnu Muslimun. muslimuna. Nahnu muslimuna. Yeah, so nahnu is the mubtada here. Okay, if you want to say you are all Muslims, you men are all Muslims. Yeah, sound like a primary school teacher now. Yeah. Okay, so antum okay, muslimuna, etc. Now notice there's no vowel change on these damirs, on these mudmars. Yeah, that's because there's a rule. Yeah, and that rule is all damirs are mabni. Yeah, remember I told you before about mabnis? Yeah, all damirs are mabnis. So basically all damirs that you get, their vowels do not change. Yeah, so you don't have to worry about any vowel change here. So over here, ana muslim, ana will never change, always going to be ana. Nahnu, antum is never going to change. You don't have to worry about vowel change on these words. But muslim, muslimuna, muslimun, that's khabr, that is. And khabr is obviously going to change, like we said. Yeah, so this is going to be muslimun because of the dhamma, and that's una because of wow, etc. That's basically what mudmar is all about. Zahir simply means if the mubtada is not a dhamir. Yeah, easy way to remember. Yeah, so zahir means not a dhamir. So long as the mubtada is not a dhamir, then you call it zahir. Zahir. Yeah, so for example, like we said above, Zaid qaimun. Yeah, so in this case, Zaid, that's the ism zahir. Yeah, and the ism zahir takes vowels. Yeah, Zaidun qaimun. Yeah, or let's say, for example, you want to say Al-Qur'anu kitabun. The Quran is a book. So Al-Qur'anu kitabun. The Quran is a book. Yeah, Quran is ism zahir. Or for example, like let's say you had the word Allahu khaliqun. Yeah, Allahu khaliqun. Allah is creator. Yeah, again, Allahu khaliqun. So Allah is creator. Yeah, so it takes the vowel, etc. You get the point basically. Yeah, and this is why in the Quran we say things like Alhamdulillahi. Alhamdu lillahi. Yeah, Alhamdu lillahi. So Alhamdu, this is the mubtada. Yeah, this is the mubtada. And it's an ism zahir. So if I say to you, right, Alhamdu, what's that? You say to me, it's an ism zahir. Okay, excellent, you got it right. Yeah, so that's basically what this is all about. So let's read what it says. So it says, وَالْمُبْتَدَى قِسْمًا. Mubtada is of two types, ظاهر ومضمر. ظاهر and مضمر. فالظاهر ما تقدم ذكره. Zahir is what previously was mentioned. Yeah. تقدم ذكره. It's mentioning, it preceded, came earlier. Okay. والمضمر, and the مضمر is إثنى عشر. المضمر إثنى عشر, or 12. وهي, they are أنا نحن أنت أنت أنتما أنتم أنتن وهو هي وهما هما هن. Yeah, those are them. Like I've done in the list here. I've done 14. He's just skipped 2 out. Right. نحو قولك أنا قائم. I am standing. I wrote أنا مسلم. نحن قائمون. I wrote نحن مسلمون. وما أشبه ذلك, and what is similar to that. In other words, anything that's similar to that. Okay. Next. You guys tired? Yeah? Alhamdulillah. Okay. So now let's look at Khabr now. I want to finish all this off. I don't want to leave it till next lesson. You know, it's nice to finish off in a good place. Right. Well, Khabr qisman. Now it's talking about Khabr now. Types of Khabr. So let's draw up the types of Khabr then. So what I'm going to need to do here is I'm going to need to slightly lengthen this. Yeah. So Okay, mashallah, alhamdulillah. You guys are proper active today, huh? You guys have been eating your dals and alhamdulillah. Okay, so types. Let's look at the types of the khabr. Again, like I said, you know, Mubtada and Khabr is like a very detailed topic in other books, advanced books. So don't worry about that. Don't feel that, we need to know all the details. You don't need to know all the details, yeah? Inshallah, you will know the details, but slowly take it bit by bit. Tadrijan. So, okay, types. So the types of Khabr are two. You have a Mufrad and you have Ghair Mufrad. Yeah, so Mufrad simply means a single word. Yeah, a single word, noun, single noun. And Ghair Mufrad means something else, not a single noun. Yeah, let's look at that. That guy came out with a deadly classification. Yeah, Mufrad and Ghair Mufrad. Yeah, so Mufrad simply means that this is single noun. Bas, single noun. Ghair Mufrad, not a single noun. Yeah, not a single noun. Yeah, so he's done it easily. So single noun, we can quickly do this one. So single noun is, for instance, if I say Zaidun Qaimun. So the word Qaim is what? Is the single noun. Yeah, single noun. Yeah, a single noun. So you see what he says about single? He doesn't mean single. And notice this. When he says single, what he does not mean by single is he doesn't mean like times one. No. Single refers to a single word on its own, a single word. So it can be times one, it can be dual, it can be times three. So that's why a sentence like Zaidun, Al-Rijalu or Al-Muslimuna Qa'imuna. The Muslims are standing. Yeah, the word Qa'imuna there is still a mufrad, still a single word, because when he says single, he does not mean single as in wahid tathniya jama, that kind of single. Does that make sense? Yeah, and so sentence is for ghair mufrad. Yeah, sentence is ghair mufrad. And this is what happens when you study Nahu. When the terminology, because many of the terms that are used are overlapping. Yeah, it gets a bit confusing sometimes because they'll use the word wasf, sifa, and sometimes sifa means na'at, and sometimes sifa means something that's abstract. So it gets a bit confusing after a while. Now this is why it's very good to study it from a teacher. Very, very important. Okay, Ghair Mufrad is of 4 types. Yeah. So 4 types. Yeah, so Ghair Mufrad, 4 types. Type number 1. Okay, type number 1. It's a jar majroor. Khabar occurs as a jar majroor. Okay, how does that work? For example, like, let's say I said this. Oops. If I said Zaidun fi ad-dar. Yeah. Zaidun fi ad-dar. So this word Zaidun fi ad-dar, that is a jar majroor, and that's all the khabar. Yeah, so Zaid is the Mubtada and fi ad-dar is the khabar. Put together becomes the khabar. Yeah, Zaid Mubtada, fi ad-dar, jar and majroor become the khabar. Okay, so this is an example where a khabar is in the form of jar majroor. Remember, it's not mufrad, it's not a single word. Yeah, and like this, like we say, Alhamdu Lillah. So the word Lillahi is khabar. Yeah. Lillahi is the khabar. Okay, this is the first example. The second example is, the second type is what we call dharf. Yeah, so dharf is basically a time or place. A word that's associated time and place. So a word associated time and place is called a dharf. So for example, if I was to say something like this, if I said Zaidun عندك. Yeah, Zaid is with you, or is at your place. So the word عندك there, that's what we call ظرف. عندك. زيد عندك. Or for example, like, let me try, I don't want to over here, so I'll split that up. If I said زيد فوق البيت. Yeah, so زيد فوق البيت, the term there فوق البيت, on top of the house, is a place. Yeah, so that's ظرف. That's a khabr. So notice it's not mufrad, because it's made up of more than one word. Okay, so that's what we call ظرف. And this comes in the Quran as well. I can't think of any from the top of my head now, but inshallah, if we look in the Quran, we'll find it. Right, next, fi'l and fa'il. So, fi'l, yeah, jumla fi'liya. Fi'l plus fa'il. Yeah, so this is an example of a sentence where it occurs as a khabar. So, for instance, if I said something like this, if I said, Zaydun qama. Yeah, so here, Zaydun is the mubtada, and qama is the khabar. Khabar. Qama is a fi'l. Qama is a fi'l. Yeah, so we're not talking about the muta'alliqs yet. Yeah, we're not going into that, because he doesn't mention it, so I don't want to mention something that he hasn't talked about. Yeah, so, you know, there are lots of things that he doesn't mention, but if I was to go into there, it's going to take a long time to understand. So, okay, qama is khabar. So this is qama, it's a fi'l. It's a verb, fi'l, and it's the fa'il as well. Yeah, the fa'il. So fi'l plus the fa'il. So Zaydun is the mubtada. So Zayd is, or Zayd stood. Yeah, Zayd mubtada, qama, it's a fi'l. So you see, it's not a noun. So it's single word, but it's not a noun. It's actually made up of two words, fi'l and fa'il. Yeah, you could have said, you know, added some extra word onto the end of it, because it could have said qama abuhu. So abuhu would become the fa'il, the fa'il of qama, like we done before. Okay, so all of that would become the khabar then. Okay, so in the Quran, for instance, like Allah says, Allahu khalaqa as-samawat wal-ard. Yeah, so Allahu khalaqa, Allah created samawat. So khalaqa as-samawat wal-ard would become the khabar. All of that is the khabar. Yeah, and the word Allah is the mubtada. Okay, and finally, the last one is mubtada, another mubtada and khabar. That plus khabar. Yeah, so another mubtada plus khabar. Yeah, so for example, like this is like, you know, Russian dolls. Have you seen Russian dolls? Yeah, it's like a small one, and then inside that small one is another one, then inside that one is another one. This is like Russian dolls. You'll see what I mean. So for example, like if I said something like this, Zaydun jariyatuhu dhahibatun. Okay, so jariyatuhu dhahibatun, all of that is a mubtada and a khabar. So let me show you. Jariyatuhu means little girl. Zayd's little girl, mubtada. Dhahibatun is the khabar. All of that put together becomes the khabar. It's like a greater khabar. A greater khabar for Zayd. And Zayd then becomes the mubtada. Yeah, so Zaydun is the mubtada, and then jariyatu dhahibatun is in itself a smaller micro mubtada and khabar, just like the Russian dolls. Yeah, so there's a mubtada and khabar inside of a mubtada and khabar. Okay, so Zaydun jariyatuhu dhahibatun. Yeah, so the vowels would be jariyatuhu dhahibatun. Okay, like that. So Zaydun indaka fawqa al-bayti fi ad-dari خلق السماوات والأرض. And there you have it. That's what it's all about. Yeah, so the Khabr غير مفرد is of 4 types: جار مجرور, ظرف, فعل فاعل, خبر مبتدأ خبر. Now let's look at the text then. So خبر قسمان is of 2 types: مفرد and غير مفرد. مفرد نحو like زيد قائم. وغير مفرد and non-مفرد is 4 أشياء, is 4 things: الجار والمجرور, like we did over here. الظرف, like we did over here. فعل مع فاعله, فعل plus his فاعل. والمبتدأ مع خبره, and a مبتدأ with his خبر. نحو قولك, like you're saying زيد في الدار. So زيد مبتدأ, في الدار خبر. وزيد عندك, زيد is with you. وزيد فوق البيت, that's a ظرف, example of ظرف. زيد قام أبوه, Zaid, his father stood. Yeah, so someone probably thinking, why doesn't he just say Zaid's father stood instead of saying it like this? Yeah, so it has more emphasis in there. And when you study balagha, you learn about these small nuances. Zaidun qama abuhu. And finally, Zaidun jariyatuhu dhahibatun. Zaid, his little girl is going. His little girl is going. Jariyatuhu dhahibatun. Yeah, so jariyatuhu dhahibatun is a mubtada and a khabar. Now, these have certain conditions in there, but he doesn't mention them. So I don't want to go into all of these. That's something in the advanced books that you can study later on, inshallah. Okay, so that's basically covering today's lesson. So let's look at what we covered and then I'll try to answer any of your questions. So we said Mubtada Khabar, Zaid is pious. So 3 things: noun, marfu, and the Aamil is a concept, ma'na. Khabar, it's noun, it's marfu, it's Musnad. Yeah, and the Mubtada is called the Musnad ilayhi, by the way. Yeah, the Mubtada is called, let's write this down, Musnad ilayhi. Yeah, that's another term for it. Okay. So Zaid قائم, زيدان قائمان, زيدون قائمون, المسلمات قائمات. Yeah, it has to conform with the Mubtada. Then we talked about types of Mubtada, 2 types, ضميرs and ظاهر. ضميرs, 14 ضميرs, he mentions 12, right? And they're always in the marfu state, Mubtada. And the ظاهر is something that's not a ضمير. زيد قائم, القرآن كتاب, الله خالق, الحمد لله. And then types, mufrad and غير mufrad. So mufrad is a single word, single noun. Yeah, زيد قائمون, قائمون, المسلمون قائمون. And then غير mufrad is 4 types, those ones that we just did. And that's it. That's basically what you have. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so let's see questions. How come the example Zaid is standing is used in both examples? Both examples. I've only used it in one. Yeah, fi'l fa'il. Okay, as in the mufrad and the غير mufrad. No, قائمون. قائمون is different. So قام is a fi'l, past verb, and قائمون is ism fa'il. So قائمون and قام is a fi'l and قائمون is ism fa'il. Okay, makes sense? Right, let's look in the Quran now and let's see if we can find examples for this. And I just want to point out to you what there is there. So let's start off with a surah which everyone can follow. So Huwa Allahu Ahad. So we said Huwa, didn't we? This is a Dhamir. What type of Mubtada is this? A Mudhmar. So Huwa is a Mubtada. And Allahu Ahadun, this is a Mubtada and Khabar inside of a Khabar. Yeah, Russian dolls. Yeah, so Allahu Ahad, Allah is one. He, Allah is one. So Huwa is the Mubtada. Okay, and Allahu Ahad is a Mubtada Khabar inside of a Khabar. Allahu As-Samad. So Allahu is the Mubtada. As-Samadu is the Khabar. That's a Mufrad. That's a Mufrad type of Khabar. Okay. Okay, so here Antum abiduna ma a'bud. So abiduna ma a'bud, all of that is a khabar. It's a غير mufrad khabar. And antum is the mubtada. You all are worshippers of what I worship. And you all are not worshippers of what I worship. Ana mubtada, abidum ma abadtum, all of that is a غير mufrad. Okay, this is the Khabr. Okay, Antum, again, Antum, Mubtada, and Abiduna ma a'bud is the Khabr. Okay, let's look for another one. Okay, here. Waylun Mubtada, Lil Musallin, Jar Majrur. Yeah, it's the Khabr. Okay, let's look for another one. Okay, Waylun Likulli Humazatin Lumazatin. Okay, that's a Mubtada and a Khabr. غير مفرد خبر. القارئة مبتدا ما القارئة is the خبر غير مفرد خبر. Okay. جزاؤهم this is in the ruling of a mufrad. Yeah, so جزاؤهم مبتدا عند ربهم ظرف. عند ربهم is the ظرف, and so forth like that. Remember, the main thing is application, guys. Application as much as you can. Okay, could you do the verse Wallahu indahu ajrun azim? Yeah, so Wallahu indahu ajrun azim. I'll just write this down for you, and that's it. So Allahu mubtada and indahu ajrun azim. Okay, so ajrun azim is actually the mubtada. Yeah, it's the mawsuf sifa mubtada, and indahu is the khabar, and then all that becomes the greater khabar. Yeah, that becomes jumla ismiya khabariya. Okay, we'll finish there. Any questions, guys? If you have any questions, leave them there, and inshallah, if I get time later, I can look at them. Jazakumullah khair, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully, see you guys next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.